Hi everyone, it's Sandra from Mobius Girl Design. Today I have a video to show off some of the different sections of my Happy Scrappy scarf. And I'm also going to give you some brief tutorial videos on how to do some of the more tricky parts of the pattern. So as you know, if you've seen the photos or read through the pattern, the scarf is constructed from sort of alternating sections of stripes and some triangle shapes, sort of worked on the bias. Sometimes I have just some solid sections. Again, you really get to pick and choose how you want to construct your scarf. No one way is right. Lots of different ways will end up looking really cool, I think. So in this first video, I'm going to show you a little bit about how to do some of the more challenging parts of the pattern, like I said. And in this first part, I'm going to show you how to end the row by making the single crochet into the chain one space. I think a common error when working in linen stitch is to work the final single crochet into the single crochet, which means that I end up with an edge that is not as neat and tidy as I might like it to be. So I was just off camera over there untangling my new yarn. So here I am at the end of a row. You can see I've made a single crochet and a chain one, and now I'm ready to work my final single crochet. I want to be sure not to work it into, like I said, the single crochet at the end of the row, but rather into the chain one space. To do that, I will enter my hook at the very end of the row. The trick that I use to make sure that I'm in the right space is to take a look at this, the way the yarn lies on my hook. You can see that the yarn makes an X shape on top of the hook, and that tells me that I'm in the correct space. So I pull up my loop, and now I'm going to show you actually how to change colors. So you'll see that I didn't complete my last stitch, almost at the end, second to last step. I'm going to pick up my new color, place it on, and pull through. And that's how I change colors to make the color change as easy and as seamless as possible. So now I'm going to show you a little bit about how to make the decrease sections of the triangle. I'm going to do my chain one and turn and just start working across. So the first row in any decrease section is going to be the same as any other row, whether it's the stripes or the solid blocks. I'm going to work all the way across, just like I have in all of the other rows. So I'm going to make my way across here, alternating my single crochets with chain stitches until I get over to the other end. It helps every now and then to count your stitches to make sure that you're not inadvertently dropping a stitch. I've done that on many occasions and have dealt with lots of frustration needing to frog back. So I always recommend stitch counting. Okay, here I am at the end of my first row of the decrease section. And again, you can see I have the single crochet and the chain one space. I'm going to be sure to work into the chain one space. Sometimes it helps to turn the work a little bit so that I can see that X a little bit more clearly. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish my stitch. Now I'm going to keep going for my second row of the decrease section. So you can see I've done my chain one, and now I'm going to turn my work. I don't know if you noticed, I always turn my work in the same direction. So I just happen to do it in a counterclockwise direction. And that helps me to ensure that I keep my edges nice and straight. So now I'm going to continue, finish up my second row here. So working into the chain one space and making my way back over to the other edge. And that's where I'm going to start to have something different for this decrease row. part of what I like so much about the linen stitch is that there's so much versatility with it. And I like that it gives a neat, almost woven appearance to the fabric, especially when working with a lighter weight yarn. So this one is fun because it's a little bulkier. You can work things up a lot faster. If you want to see another example of the linen stitch, you can check out my Pythagorean shawl. It's a pattern that will be released shortly. By the time this video is out, hopefully it will be released. Okay, so now I'm back at the end of my second row for my decrease section. You can see that I've worked just like regular until I've gotten to my last 2 chain 1 spaces. So here's my second to last chain 1 space. And my very last chain 1 space is at the very end, just like it always is. So to finish, for the decrease row, I'm going to skip the chain 1 space between my final 2 stitches. So I'm going to make my first single crochet, and normally I would chain 1 here, but I'm going to skip that and make my final single crochet into the final chain 1 space. So now at the end of this row, you can see that I have 2 stitches right next to each other. So this is going to be the side that I'm decreasing on. When I decrease, I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Again, I'm doing this in a counterclockwise direction. It's a little annoying sometimes because your fabric gets all twisted and then you have to sort of work with it, but I think it's worth the neat edges. So now here I'm ready to start my decrease. So I've chained 2. I'm going to skip the first single crochet and the second single crochet, and I'm going to work into the next chain 1 space. And then I'm just going to keep going across in my regular manner until I get all the way over to the other end. So for the decrease sections of this pattern, on one side, I will always end with a chain 2, and on the other side, I will always end with a chain 1. Of course, the chain 1 is the side that's straight, and the chain 2 will be the side that is decreased and worked on that creates the diagonal. So I'm just going to keep going here for a little bit, show you one more chain 1 space until you're sort of thoroughly sick of seeing that. And then I'll double back and show you one more decrease, just so you have the hang of it. So I untangle my yarn here. So here I am at the end of the row, done my last chain 1. Now here I'm going to need to find my final chain 1 space, which is right here. Insert my hook underneath. Sometimes it can get a little tight depending on how tightly you've made your chain. So it can take some muscle to work your hook into there. But once you have it, then you just complete your stitch. So I've chained 1, I'm going to turn my work again. And double back to the other side. If you're doing stitch counts for the decrease rounds or rows, what you'll notice is that you work 2 rows with the same number of stitches in each row. So for example, in my version, I have 21 single crochets in a full row. So that means that my first 2 rows of the decrease section will each have 21 single crochets. And then the next 2 rows will each have 20 single crochets. The next 2 after that will have 19 single crochets, and so on. And that's another way of keeping track, making sure that I'm making the correct number of stitches. All right, so here I am back now to my final spaces, and this is a little bit different now because I'll be working into the chain 2 space. So here I have my final chain 1 space right here, and my turning chain 2 right here. do my chain 1 because I'm ready to make my final 2 single crochets. So I'm going to work the first one into the last chain 1 space. I'm going to skip the chain 1 now, remember, and I'm going to work into the chain 2 space. Work the second one into the chain 2 space, just like that. And that's how I complete a row. I do my chain 2 and turn. And now I'm ready to start my next row. So again, I skip the first 2 single crochets, work my single crochet into that first chain 1 space, and keep moving on all the way across the row. So I'm going to stop the video here for now so that I can finish up the rest of this triangle section. And I'm going to come back later to show you how to work the increase sections of this pattern, because I think that's the last sort of tricky bit. And hopefully after that, you should be good to go to make your scarf. It's been great chatting with you. I hope you enjoy making your scarf. Thanks.